morning and welcome to 1 Million Cups. I am Ruth Ann Patrick, in case you don't know me. This is my first week back to work after many broken bones, shoulder surgeries, and all that. Today we have with us someone very special that is actually working with 2 companies here in town, I believe. Can I say that?
A few more than that, actually.
Okay. I won't tell you that, but I think you'll find his talk beneficial. I did want to bring up a few things. 2 weeks ago, we showed a video called 1 in a Million. I don't know if anybody saw that video. Have we showed it since then? The 1 in a Million video is Kansas City is doing a pitch competition for anyone that has presented at 1 Million Cups. They have an opportunity to apply for it, possibly win $10,000 and go to Kansas City for the finals. If you are interested in that or know of a business that may be, they have until August the 2nd to present, or they can be a past presenter. If you want to know anything about that, please let me know. Who's new here today? Who hasn't been here before? Great, well, we're glad to have you all. Okay, I'd like to introduce Jonas Niehoff. Jonas is with a company called Socially Present, and they specialize in branding, digital marketing, social media, film and video production, and mobile apps. They are located in Paducah, Kentucky. And I'm going to let him tell us about his business.
All right, thank you, and I really appreciate everyone allowing me to come. I was a little confused on how long I was going to be, so I think I was only supposed to prepare for 6 minutes. I prepared for 30, so we got more than enough content. But I'm going to rush through a lot of it. So I love the whole idea of 1 Million Cups, and I love what the whole organization stands for. It really has a lot to do with storytelling, which really connects with me and something I'm passionate about. So I am the president and owner. Started the company back in 2012, or actually 2011, December 2011. So we're about 3.5 years old, and have grown a lot to really kind of hit a sweet spot in the market, I think, with social media. These are my children. I'm married. I've been married 10 years this year and have 3 awesome kids. That's Ben, Eden, and Macy. They are really why I get up every morning and go to work and do what I do. It's because I want to show them, I want to provide for them, but I also want to show them the values of working hard and that you can follow your dreams if you do that. So this is kind of the inspiration of when I got in. I was looking for a job. I was actually working at a church as a pastor before this, doing youth and media at a church for 2 years. And I enjoyed that, but sometimes I kind of felt like I could do more outside the walls of the church for me, and I've always had a passion for business, and I feel like sometimes you can make more of a difference in the community, just being in the community versus, working at a desk in a church. Not anything against it, it's just for me, I enjoy the mix, being out. I love the entrepreneurial spirit of things, and so I was looking for something that would give me the ability to make a difference in people's lives, provide for my family, and also give me the freedom to travel with my family or spend time with my family. So I was looking for something online. So I was looking through, and for social media managers, when we started this company in 2011, there was 26,000 job postings for a social media manager on Simply Hire, and I thought, man, that's a big number. There's a lot of people that are looking for this, huge demand for this. So I started looking into what all that involved, and the mean salary at that time was $38,000 for a social media manager. And I thought, a lot of businesses can't afford, small businesses can't afford to hire on a social media manager for $38,000 a year. By the time they pay tax and insurance, spend $50,000 for someone to update their Facebook page. So the idea was to create a company that people could outsource those needs to for a fraction of the cost it would for them of having an employee on. So that was kind of the basis of the business. Within a year, that number grew from 26,000 to 93,000. So the demand when we hit it was really just a really good time. And so it really helped launch our business and give us a lot of success in that area. When we started, we've grown since then. It was 2 of us, and now there's 11 of us, I believe. So can't always remember what we got. But as far as I'm very big on setting goals, and that's kind of one of the things that's pushed us ahead. As we laid out, our goals. Well, we didn't build this giant business plan, 30-page business plan, because a lot of times I feel like that's almost obsolete by the time, 2 years in, the world's changed already. And so we really built it off a basic 4 to 5 page business plan, but we set goals, and that was very important to our success, setting the goals and then adjusting, not the goals if it looked like we weren't going to hit them, but adjusting the action steps to get there. I'm a firm believer that if you set a goal, you can hit it, but you got to reevaluate. You got to look, okay, what do we need to do? And a lot of times, I think the mistake sometimes a lot of people will make is they'll set a goal, and when they see they're not going to hit it, they change that goal, and instead of changing the action steps to get there. So that's kind of a big thing for me. One of the things that kind of sets us apart, makes us different, is we really take a timeless approach to modern marketing. I love storytelling. I love the concept of interacting relationships. But some of this new marketing and new media has kind of been lumped into this old school way of thinking, just blast stuff out to people, versus building relationships and communicating your story to people. So I have a film here that this is our story. It kind of just shares a little bit of our concepts and what our beliefs are. So I'm going to sit over here and let you guys watch this for just a few minutes. I'm going to sit over here.
Stories are incredible things. If I told you that my father loved me, it wouldn't quite do it justice. But if I told you that my father was a home painter and that he had 6 kids and that he worked incredibly long hours and would come home with calluses on his hands and would pray over me at night with those hands. And even though he worked 50, 60 hours a week, he always took time to spend with me and show that love to me. I think you have a little bit better idea of how my father cared for me. And that's what a story does. It takes an idea and it brings life to it. We like to say that we're not marketers, but we're digital storytellers. The world's full of new technology and these new avenues of communication. But one of the oldest forms of communication is storytelling. And communicating concepts and ideas through stories is something that's been around forever. It's a timeless approach to create a memorable brand. So when we sit down with a client, we try to listen for those stories and how we can communicate that to their market through these digital platforms. When we sit down and we do that, you combine both that timeless approach with this modern marketing. I don't take that responsibility lightly when someone comes to me and they've poured their heart and soul into a business and they're asking us to help them succeed. That's something I take very personally. It's not every day that you get to work with people that are not just co-workers, but they're friends and their families, and people that genuinely care about your business as much as you do. And I always say when I'm sitting down with someone, you can teach skills and you can teach business, but you can't teach passion. And when I look at every person on our team, the thing that really is distinctive above everything else is that they care. They're not just here to collect a check, they're here to help people succeed. And it's something that we just have a good time. We enjoy the creative process of building something that makes someone successful.
So that's kind of a little overview of our story. We had a phenomenal young man named Josh Marbury come on as our cinematographer and videographer. And as I told you, our kind of business model started in social media. Well, what we quickly found was that stories were what really people were looking for on those platforms. And this young man came on and he just was a phenomenal talent. All those different images and all the different footage that you've seen there was all shot in-house by our cinematographer. Phenomenal talent, very good at pulling those stories out. And so that's kind of the shift in the way our business model kind of molded was, okay, we want to use these social media channels to get information out about businesses and help people connect with those businesses, but we're going to use film and use our imagery and those things that create that brand as the content that goes out. So that's kind of what we did there. And stories, like I said, it's not a new idea. Stories have been around forever. You know, they're a creative way to really transfer information and inspiration to someone else. So it's something that you can you can package up. The cool thing about a story is you can take a concept or an idea or a principle, and you can package that story up, and you can put it to a parable or put it to a story, and you can actually translate that story in another language and tell that story in another culture, another area of the world, and the information transfers better because it's a story. They kind of pick up on it. So I always use this as an example, and this is something that I think kind of demonstrates that you reap what you sow. Being generous causes others to be generous. Now, how many people in here would agree with that? Being generous, okay? Now, does that statement, when I say that statement, does it hit you? When I say that, do you feel that statement, or is it kind of just a statement? I mean, it's a general statement, right? It's not. But let me tell you a quick story about something that probably the most important lesson I ever learned in business. I was younger, had a lot more hair, was way cooler, had played music, and thought I was rock star. I thought it was going to be great. And I was real passionate and zealous. We were going to change the world. We were going to do a fundraiser for a well in Africa. Some friends of ours were missionaries, and so we had this idea, and we just thought, oh, this is going to work great. It's worked phenomenal. We'll get everybody to collect bottled water, and we'll have them donate that, and then we'll sell that water at the Superman Festival in Metropolis. And so we have all of this water gathered. We have thousands of bottles of water. We think this is going to work. I mean, it makes sense. Someone would pay $1 for a bottle of water to give water to someone in another country who's got dirty water. I mean, that makes sense, right? So we get out there Friday night. We're going to sell it the whole weekend, but Friday night's the concert. I'm assuming, because we're all such big rock stars and have huge names, that's going to be our biggest night. We're going to sell a bunch that night. So we get out there, we do the concert, and my shift's the next morning. So we get done with that and come in the next morning, and I see this just giant mountain of water behind me at our booth. And I'm thinking, we didn't do so hot last night, I can tell already. And so I was like, so how did we do last night? You know, and they were like, well, we raised about $250. And we were like, and I was like, oh man, and it was just blazing hot. I mean, it put this week to shame as far as heat. But I sat out there and we're watching, and these people walking by, and everyone's just avoiding us like the plague. I mean, they're just like, oh, they're wanting money, they're wanting something. I'm not going over there. So we kind of thought, man, this is a bust. Everybody's discouraged, and we just thought, you know what? I was looking down the way, and there was a family, a husband and a wife and a small child. The small child didn't have shoes on, didn't have a shirt on, and you could tell that they were a struggling family. We thought, you know, in Metropolis, I don't know if you've ever been, but their economy's gone through a lot of tough things. And we thought, maybe this is a bust, but we got all this water, it's hot outside, let's just give this water away. Just take that $1 off, and let's put free water. Let's just give this water away. And a lot of people are hot. So we do that. We mark the $1 out, we put free on the sign, and something amazing started happening. People come up and we're like, free water, we're giving people water. And they're like, oh, thank you so much. You know, it's hot, and drink it. What are you guys doing? And we began to share the story of what we were trying to do. And people, instead of dropping $1 in, were dropping 20s in, or they drop 100 in. And we raised every bit of that $3,000 that weekend. And what I was taught by that is that when you give, and when you're generous, and you give as an organization or as a business, you create this atmosphere of generosity around your business or organization that really gets people excited, and they want to participate, and they want to be generous as well. So, in contrast, that statement versus telling the story, when you tell that story, it kind of hits you a little more, right? You kind of get the goosebumps, and you kind of feel like, that's a little different than just the statement. So that's what a story does. And so that's what we try to do, is find those stories from an organization. What makes a business unique? What does their past, present, and future look like? The lessons. What lessons does your life organization leave with people? We kind of ask those questions, try to find out what's unique about them and how we can communicate that. help them kind of set those goals and clarify their message. And then comes part two, which is what we do as far as telling that story. We utilize all the platforms and the different tools that we have to communicate and get the word out about who they are so they can connect people. The Station Burger is a good example. They were right next door to a Backyard Burger, small local restaurant competing with a national chain. So we had to get creative. They didn't have a big budget, but they had a phenomenal burger. They had a great product. And so what we did is we did a campaign through social media to get people talking about how great their food was. So they started doing online reviews. They had record sales, voted best burger in Paducah, had record sales the first weekend, record sales that month, record sales for that quarter. They've opened 3 chains since then, and growing tremendously through social media. And that's one of the biggest things that social media has been able to do, is that if you've got a great product or service, it can be that bullhorn to get it out. Now, it's not a fix-all. You know, if your business isn't doing good or it doesn't have a good product or service, it can also run your business in the ground. So, one thing that I love about social media is that it's kind of raised the bar, that you can't just tell people what you want them to hear about your business. They're going to talk about it as well, so it's very different. And really, the biggest thing with social media is it's a shift in the way we communicate. It's not this fad, it's not this thing for young people, it's a different way of communication. And you look at some of these older channels of communication, you know, in the evolution that we've seen of those forms and how fast things are changing now. I was watching that show a while back, that Sons of Liberty. I don't know if you guys watched that or not. There was a scene in there where they were trying to get a message back. It was like 3 months before that message was going to, you know, across the ocean and come back. And I was thinking, man, how the world has changed, that now you can communicate around the world in an instant. It's just tremendous. I mean, we have been in a communication revolution in the last, 50 years, I think. You know, it's really amazing what has happened. But the thing with that is that with all this new stuff and all this new technology, we start to abandon some of the core values that we have, and we start getting into the sales mode. Just sell, and get it, push product, versus really telling the story and communicating and back to, you know, doing what you say you're going to do, and business on a handshake, and those type of things. And if you utilize these platforms that way, they're very, very effective. So these are some of the different forms of communication. And I'm sorry if I'm boring you guys with all this. I had a lot more than 6 minutes. Well, I'm trying to breeze through it, but you can see some of the numbers. I mean, there's 2.4 billion people online. I mean, it is ridiculous how much time people are spending online. So you can't ignore it. You can't ignore how it's affecting businesses. So you have to adapt and you have to adjust. This is where people are spending the majority of their time. You can see 22% of it is social networking. It's where so it's a huge part of our culture, a huge part of the way our world's working now. Facebook, these are probably old numbers. They're probably not even, they change all the time, but Facebook is still king. There's still a ton of people on that platform. So back to the statement of social media won't make your business great. Again, social media, a lot of people come, they're like, oh, you know, if we just get on Facebook and we just get on social media, then all our problems will be over. We'll have all this business. And I ask them, you know, how do you treat your employee or your customers? How do you treat your employees? How do you treat, you know, is your product really good? Because if it's not, it won't make their business great. All it does is it only amplifies what already exists. So social media, if your business is on its way to its demise, and you don't have a good product or service, and you don't treat your customers right, and you cut your employees out every chance you get, it will be your end. It really will. But if you have a great product, and you have ethics, and you have the culture that is in the product that really shines, then it is tremendously effective for your business. This is kind of back to the shift of what we try to talk with people about. Is new marketing is about the relationship and not the medium. Selling to people who actually want to hear from you is more effective than interrupting strangers who don't. How many of y'all know who Seth Godin is? Y'all ever heard? Phenomenal mind. He's a great marketer. But the whole shift is if you push a product, you know, you might make $50. You know, you sell your widget, sell it for $50, you made that sale. But if you do it at the expense of the relationship, and that person really didn't need it, and you've cost the client or a customer, that customer may do $5,000, $10,000, $50,000, $100,000, depending on your business, ongoing. So it's something that, that's kind of what we really try to focus on. Traditional marketing is not a lot of times like that though, because you're trying to push what your product is versus building that relationship and giving people a chance to connect with you. These are all the platforms that we try to use to kind of push those concepts and ideas and stories out. All of these different social media platforms are highly effective, and the advantage for small businesses that we find is that it gives them the ability, like you see with the station, that they can compete with majors, and they can reach some of the local demographics in a much more authentic and meaningful way, and it's easier to measure your ROI. The one thing I always say to people is, you know, starting small is huge. Success is the sum of small efforts repeated day in and day out. For me, I don't know if it's the same for everyone, but for me, I found life is very seldom your success is determined on one giant good decision. It's really waking up every morning and trying to make, you know, efforts and progress and making one small good decision at a time. You know, just making, and that's kind of what we've tried to do. I've been very fortunate with all of this to really be able to have the right team. I mean, our team is second to none. They are phenomenal. They really, all of them are way more talented than I am on anything. I mean, I think the only thing that I'm good at is hiring people. They're excellent. I mean, just super good, super talented, and having that team and having those people there really help tremendously when you're building a business. And so that's, if I had to really indicate, you know, some key things, building that great team, having people who are passionate about what you do and what others do are really beneficial. So that's all I got on the presentation. I just rushed through 30 minutes and I don't know how long. That be okay? All right, so we've got plenty of time for Q&A if you guys have any questions for me. I'm wide open. Nothing off limits.
What obstacles have you encountered since going from your position at the church to being on your own?
Well, probably the biggest obstacle in the beginning was social media in our area is probably, you know, about probably 10 years behind the Northeast. So what's widely accepted in some areas isn't so widely accepted here. So we ran into a lot of, you know, social media. Facebook's free, right? I mean, how do you know, you're going to charge for that, you know, or whatever, and they don't quite understand what you're actually doing and what the concept is. You know, and so we really had to, in the beginning, educate the market on the value of it. You know, when we first started to do it, there was no one else in the community doing it. No one was doing social media management. Now there's 4 others in the community that are doing it. So when we started, we didn't really have someone else that was kind of validating it by you know, running alongside us. So it was kind of explaining to people, hey, this is valuable and this could help your business grow. So that was probably the biggest obstacle, was just getting, it wasn't just starting a business, it was starting a business that was totally a new concept in the area. So it wasn't like, you know, I guess the example would be, you know, if you're starting another bank, I mean, there's banks that already exist, so there's some credibility to what that business is, but we didn't really have that. So that was a huge obstacle for us. The biggest thing was just getting in front of people, talking with them, and letting time and the client success kind of you know, validate you over time. So it's become much easier now. I mean, people accept it no problem. So yes, sir.
So you started with 2 employees. There's 2 of you.
And
now you have 11.
there's 11 now. Yes, sir.
You're all full-time employees.
No, two of those are part-time. 2 of those are 9 full-time, 2 part-time. So we have the 4 main areas of our business is branding, social media, web design and development, and film production. Those are our 4 main areas. And so we kind of have those all kind of scattered out employees-wise where those people go.
Can you tell us who your biggest client is?
Our biggest client, well, I don't know. I'm trying to think. There's really We have about 200 clients, and probably the average client there, I could probably tell you about 5 or.
Could you tell us what field? Is it banking?
Oh, okay.
Real estate or?
Yeah, so the top 5, actually one of them's car washes. We've got a car wash. One of the big ones around here that we do, and I don't mind saying it, it's Tunco. We do a lot with Tunco. We do industries, pharmacies, we have financial institutions, we have banking, so it's a lot different. But one of the things with that kind of industry-wise that we found is that there's certain strategies for each that you really have to kind of play into, like restaurants and retail. For some reason, there's like a cult following for car washes. I have no idea why people are so fascinated with car washes. But those types of things, like those like hobbies and retail, those do tremendously well. You're gonna get a ton of engagement. You can post 3 times a day, and you're not bugging people. If you're an accountant or an attorney or an investor or something like that, you're not going to get the engagement. No one wants to hear from their accountant, 5 or 6 days a week. So you really utilize those platforms a little bit differently for those different industries. But we have a pretty wide range. But I hope that answered your question. Yes, sir.
Are you constantly going back to the clients and having to change things as they update, or as you see things you can do before?
Yeah, well, yeah, definitely, yes. And we're constantly having to change everything because the world's just, it just seems like it changes all the time. The strategy changes, and we constantly have to challenge ourselves to look at ourselves critically and say, is there something that we can do better? A good, for instance, of that is the strategy for social media for a long time is just pump content out there, articles and 5 steps to a better life and all these different things that you do. And anybody who's been on social media has seen that. Well, there's so much of that out there, now it kind of becomes like it's a little bit of like you just get lost in the noise when you do that. And one thing I observed when we were doing that was that every day I'd go to our Facebook page and I'd see who liked it and I'd see who shared my post. And in this recording studio there in town, he was always liking it, he was always sharing our post. And someone come up to me and asked me one day, they said, hey, do you know anybody who does recording in the area? And the first person that came to my mind was that recording studio. And I was thinking, isn't that interesting? I felt I was marketing to him, but him liking my stuff and sharing my stuff made me think of him. And so we implemented that in some of our strategies with clients is instead of just pumping things out and trying to get people to share our stuff, going and sharing and liking their stuff is also effective for getting your name out there. So targeting your target market with those likes. So constantly having to change, all the different things and challenge yourself to make sure that we're doing that. Yes, ma'am.
Jonas, going back to being a startup company with a new idea, we were kind of the same way with a Vanguard new idea in Paducah when we first moved there and in senior housing. But how did you break into being able to build your business either with investors or startup funds to actually get an office open and start hiring people?
Well, I'm proud to say that we're actually debt free, and we did not borrow. We started, and I wanted to borrow several times because it would have made my life a lot easier. I had a gentleman that I am so grateful to have just as a mentor that I would check in with him and say, hey, what do I do here? How do I handle this situation? I really think we need to borrow some money. He's like, no, you don't. You need to just hold on and you'll do fine. And I'm glad I listened to him. And so I didn't have to do that. We were fortunate enough to do that, which we don't have a lot of overhead because most everything is online for us. But it took some real sacrifices to do that. And I don't mind sharing, but you've seen my family and a wife and 3 kids. That first year I made $26,000. And you talk about thin. I took a dramatic pay cut from the company I owned in the past to the church to where I was at starting out. And we were fortunate, my wife and I were fortunate to be set up personally in our finances where we could make those sacrifices. But it took sacrifice, and it was not easy. And I think I lost a good amount of hair during that first year as well. So I think that's, but I'm not against borrowing, and even the mentor that I had, you know, wasn't against it, but it's kind of a last resort, because if sometimes when you borrow money and you do something in a startup, I think it doesn't feel like real money. You just spend it left and right, and then you realize, okay, now we're in debt, now we got this huge payment that we have to make. So we try really hard not to do that, but I'm not against it, like I said, but I can't really speak to borrowing, because we really didn't have to do that. Any other questions?
I do a lot of social media for economic development, and one thing that I notice is I can go in and post something at 10 o'clock in the morning on Monday and have 734 people see it, hundreds of people like it. I can do it at the same time the next day and maybe 12 people see it. Is there a trick to knowing exactly when to do it?
Well, the thing with Facebook, and I guess that's where you're
Yes.
talking just with Facebook, is their algorithms changing all the time. And when we first started, you could get just huge reach for free. I mean, it wasn't going to cost anything. But Facebook's a business, and so everyone, you know, if you're a business person, you assume that what their ultimate goal is to make some money off that thing. So that's what they've done. They've locked down that algorithms where you're not getting the reach like you used to. And I can't blame them. Like I said, they're a business. That's what they're trying to do. But there are, you know, updates and best practices that they release when they do change those algorithms. Sometimes text and links will get suppressed so that you're not getting as much if you put a link in there. Images go a long way. Usually get better shares on images. Video is extremely effective now. Putting video, not sharing YouTube links, but actually putting the video in Facebook. And part of that is because they're really trying to compete with Google and YouTube for video players, so they're promoting those and pushing those out more now. But it changes all the time. That's one of those things that continually change. But as far as the time of day, you can actually go into your analytics on Facebook and you can see kind of when the majority of your audience is online. You can find out where you're going to get the most reach. Now, the thing that I always caution people about on that is if it's usually like 7 to 8 is actually like the best time at night for the most people on there. But if you only do it at that time, you're still not hitting some of these people here. So if you have this curve, I always just use that as kind of a guideline. Okay, the majority of our posts we want at this time, but we still want to scatter some out during these times as well. So, but it's changing. I mean, the best thing is just kind of subscribe to a blog that keeps those things, you know, lets you know about those things on a continual basis. Yes, ma'am.
And the way that you post, are they linked all together? For instance, whatever you post is going to Twitter, it's Facebook, it's like one post goes everywhere into the different medias.
Sometimes, yes, sometimes it doesn't. It just kind of depends on what the content is. The majority of the time, whatever we post on Facebook, we automatically link out to Twitter, because you can post a lot more on Twitter, but you wouldn't really want to do that on the flip side. Like whatever you were posting to Twitter, you wouldn't want all that going to Facebook, because it'd be too much. So you can utilize something like Hootsuite or one of those platforms to do that. But now you can schedule posts and things like that within Facebook now, so it's really and link that to Twitter as well, so it's not.
So that doesn't help, like where it shows up in the feed if you're linking it with Twitter or?
No, it won't help. Like, are you talking about kind of timing with our question?
Yeah.
No, it won't really help you boost your engagement, you know, tying in and pushing it out to other social media platforms, because they all kind of, they're all somewhat competition. I mean, they're competing for people's time, and so they don't really reward you, you know, if you are socially engaged overall. Does that answer your question?
Well, you know, I'm assuming that there's someone at Twitter, someone at Facebook who's going, oh, look, Twitter's got more likes on this, or has got more engagement on this article or story or picture.
Oh,
so
I gotcha.
let's throw it over on ours.
You know,
let's
more
make
engagement on that. I don't know. I don't know if they've got. It's all kind of set up with an algorithm, so it's kind of decided by that. But
There's somebody watching that algorithm.
yeah, yeah, changing it up. Any other
So
questions?
what about Pinterest and Instagram? Do you use that as well? And
I
how does that
don't use it
change?
personally, like I'm not a big, I don't pin a lot of things, but my wife goes crazy with it, and our social media manager utilizes it. It's good for certain things. I mean, what you're gonna find with social media platforms, like if you had to define them, like Facebook is the biggest. I mean, it is by far still the one that is the best for businesses. I think every business should be on there, because what's happened with Facebook is all the parents and grandparents got on there to see their grandkids and connect, and all the kids are like, oh, we're getting off here, it's not cool anymore. And so it's a very mature audience. The average person on Facebook, I think now is upper 30s or 40, like that's the average age. So it's a much mature audience on Facebook. The younger people got on Instagram and Twitter, some of these new ones that are coming out, and they're utilizing those. So if you're going after that younger audience, you want to be on those other platforms like Twitter, Instagram, and some of those. Snapchat, sure, yeah. And but like with Pinterest, the majority of that, I think it's like 75% women. So there's a lot of women on there that are into different crafts and art and different things of that nature. So if you're wanting to target those, it's a great place to highlight creative things and retail and all of those platforms. LinkedIn is a good place if you're wanting to target business to business. It's a great place for business to business. I always kind of compare Facebook and LinkedIn. It's like Facebook's like neighborhood barbecue. You can talk about business, but you're doing other things. There's a lot of talking going on. Where LinkedIn is more like a chamber breakfast or event. Like people expect you to network and do business on there. It's not taboo to be talking about it all the time. So that's a little bit of different platforms. But yeah, all of those, even the niche social medias that aren't necessarily big, if they're your target market, it's a great place to be. It's a good place to connect.
You kind of answered my question about LinkedIn, because our business is, we deal with commercial business all the time. We do office furniture, and we're not just in Madisonville, we're in 6 states that we travel out to, and we design. And so we have people like radio and come for us for advertising, and which that to me is pointless, because we're not trying to target, off the street. We're trying to target commercial business.
Right.
So I know that radio is not effective, and newspaper is not effective for us, because nobody reads the newspaper hardly anymore, and no offense to anybody, but there's just not much content in there, and then the radio ads just throwing money out the door. So is LinkedIn a better advertising way, or because Facebook really wouldn't be for us? Because I don't know that I see Facebook would be for
business. So just to make sure I'm clear, we all sell like office furniture.
Yeah, we do like cubicles, office furniture. We do design work like custom cabinets for banks and just all that kind of stuff. So we're a broad spectrum of commercial is what we do.
For something like that, I would probably recommend both. I would recommend Facebook as well, and the reason being is because you're going to have individuals that are in offices that are supposed to be working on Facebook, and they're looking, oh, there's a new chair. I've been needing a new chair. I need to tell my boss that so-and-so can do it. So there is some benefit there, but kind of talking about the traditional marketing and the new media marketing, the big change in all of that, is what happened is it used to be, you used to buy your TV spots, buy your radio spots, buy your newspaper advertising. Everybody reads the newspaper, everybody watches TV, everybody listens to the radio, you're gonna get it. And it's called interruption marketing. And what has happened with that, you're watching TV, it's coming up on this suspenseful scene, all of a sudden it breaks to commercial, buy your office furniture, $69.99 or whatever it is for a chair. And it interrupts what you're trying to do. Same thing with radio. You listen to your songs, radio ad comes on, it interrupts you. Reading the newspaper, all of a sudden ads there, interrupts you. So that's what's happened is people got sick of that. They got tired of being interrupted while they were doing what they're doing. So products and technology has made it where, okay, I don't have to listen to ads or watch ads on the TV anymore. I've got Netflix, or I can TiVo, and I can fast forward through, and I don't have to listen to the radio anymore. I've got or iPod or my own playlist. And so it's made it to where it's almost impossible sometimes to reach people like that because of the way that it's filtered now. So really what you have to do is not try to scream at a bunch of people who don't want to hear from you, but create opportunities for people who do. There is someone out there that has your service. You just have to position yourself where they can find you. So with LinkedIn or with Google search is a very huge thing that we do. So if somebody's looking for office furniture, that would be my first priority would be that, is if somebody's searching office furniture for sale, that you're showing up number one, because that's not someone who's watching a TV show trying to relax that you're screaming at. That's someone who's actually in need of your product or service right now. They are searching for, I want office furniture. And if you're showing up first, then you're going to grab that sale. And the same thing with LinkedIn and Facebook. What they've done is, because of the nature of the platforms, people tell all these things about themselves. So they may say, I'm in human resources, or I'm in business development on LinkedIn. That's my job title, or or I live in this area, or I work for this company, or this type of company. And they put all that information on LinkedIn. And with LinkedIn ads, you can actually target ads, and you can say, I want this ad to only go to people who are in business development in this region that have 30 employees or more. Their company has 30 employees or more, whatever it might be. You can target them. Same thing with Facebook on the business to consumer side. You can actually say, okay, I want this to only go to people in Madisonville that are women age 30 to 60 that like knitting, whatever it might be. You can target interest, you can target hobbies, and that ad's only going to go to them. So if you get on Facebook, you probably notice a lot of the ads are usually geared towards interest of yours, and that's why, because they have all this information about it. So it's highly effective. But I'm much more interested in looking at the ads in my news feed when they're tailor made to me versus just something that comes on TV, when I watch TV. So all those platforms allow you to get more niche. So yeah, I would definitely, say LinkedIn, Facebook, and Google search would be huge in your industry to try to promote that in your business.
Yes, sir.
What's your take on yellow page advertising? That to me is a dying content, the old yellow page books, but they're doing a big shift to try and promote online and your search visibility and things like that.
I'm always careful to say that traditional marketing is just, there's no value, because I do believe that there's certain businesses and certain a certain part of your marketing mix should have some of those things in there. There's nothing wrong with that. I still think that we're part of that time. But I feel like if you're not incorporating these new medias and shifting away from some of those, I think that paper, yellow pages is on the verge of completely dying, because when I want a number to something, I get on my phone and I Google search it, and that's how I find the business.
But beyond that, to where they're trying to shift their efforts to promote how they can get you online and listed and things like that.
Yeah. So they've kind of seen that. They've seen that their paper models, failing, so they're trying to reinvent themselves online. I think that, just being blunt with yellow pages is, I've never clicked on yellow pages. I see them show up, never click on them. I go to that person's website or their Facebook page before I ever click on that. I personally, for the price especially, because it is not cheap at all, but I don't think it's worth it. I wouldn't do it. I just, it would have to be a pretty rare case. I think it's valuable to have that link for your search engine optimization. Like if you're having, if that's your main part of your business is people finding you in Google searches, it's a powerful link because it is such a big platform. But apart from that, I just don't see much value in it.
Sorry.
Yeah, that's just being blunt. You can't can't put that on the camera. Yeah, too late done. Yes, sir.
Someone will engage your services, the way you charge per hour. How do you tell me what it's going to cost for your services?
Well, it's different for every business. I mean, depending on what they're getting and what they're doing. The way we do it is we sit down for free first for an hour, hour and a half, however long it takes. And we just kind of come in and we don't pitch, here's all of our services and these are the deals we got. We listen. We just come in and say, you know, what are you doing? What's your business? What's your product? What's your service? Who are you trying to reach? And we ask a bunch of questions. And then we find out kind of what you're trying to, your goals and your mission, your ambitions for your business. And then we try to see where our products or services can help you accomplish that. It's hard to kind of put, I mean, we have set pricing for everything. It's not like a different pricing for each person, but it really depends on what they're trying to do. And then we send a proposal or a quote, and then they look over the numbers, and if they want to go with it, then they go with it. So.
Any more questions?
I have another one. Now, I don't know if it's available or not, but you were talking about the phone numbers and things like that. But around here, we have a lot of the small contractors and things, and now they've done away with their phone, but they got their cell phone now.
Right.
And how did you find your cell phone number? It's not listed under their name, you know.
Oh, well, that's a good question. As far as that goes, like we don't have a landline. We don't, at our business, we don't at all, which what I use is what's called a virtual PBX, and it just routes to everyone's cell phones. And so we have a set company number, and that would probably be what I would recommend to someone who had that model is, you know, get an established company number, but then when you call it, you know, you press 1 for sales or 2 for existing customers or whatever it might be, and then that routes to the appropriate person. I mean, we are all on such a go now. Like, I see why. Like, that's why we don't have a landline. I mean, we're just all over the place. So it's easier for us to have that central thing. But if I have seen people, you know, list their mobile number on Facebook or whatever, or on their website, if that's their primary number. But yeah, they need to have it listed if they want to get calls. I mean,
Yeah, if I hadn't used him in a couple of years, I don't know that he's changed his number, you know.
Yeah, and unfortunately, I mean, I come from a big family in construction and carpentry and painting and electrical and plumbing, all those different, and they are sometimes the most resistant to the changes, some of those things. They just don't do a lot of marketing because a lot of it is just word of mouth and referral for them. And so someone needs to have a talk with them, tell them to come talk with them. Anything else?
Well, thank you very much.
Thank you all.
We have 2 new coordinators at 1 Million Cups. Elizabeth had to leave early, but Elizabeth Oldham is one of our coordinators now, and actually Tom Evelyn. So if you're an entrepreneur and you would like to present, talk to, I'm sorry, I can't read lips. Talk to Elizabeth, talk to Mark Lee, talk to myself, Tom Evelyn, Kevin Cotton, he's out of town today. And we would be glad to get you signed up and let you tell us your story about your business. Next week, Dr. French will be here. Mary Miller signed him up. So come join us next week at 7:30.
Sign in if you haven't signed in.
If you haven't signed in, please sign in, or Barbara will come chase you down. Okay, thank you, and we'll see you next week.